episode 616 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. AEW All In London 2024 is now in the books, and I will be talking all about it tonight. Championships were on the line. We saw a debut. We saw returns in AEW. And in the main event, did we see the end of the legendary career of the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, as he challenged Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship? Gonna talk everything AEW All In London right here, right now. 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hey Wrestling Fanatics, welcome to episode 616 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. It's Wembley, you know what that means. Time to talk about AEW All In London, and this, I just want to say, wow, just was an incredible event. And honestly, I think this might, even as great last year's was, the first ever All In, I think this year may have even been better. That's just my opinion. I know it's just a few short hours after the show, but this was definitely a great pay-per-view tonight. Definitely, in my opinion anyway, lived up to the hype. I've been looking forward to this, to be honest, since after last year's All In, when Tony Khan announced it during the media scrum. And just want to start off with a couple announcements that were made during the 0 hour. And in February 15th, I believe, AEW will be going to Australia for the first time with Grand Slam Australia. And there's been some rumors about it the last couple days, that next year's Forbidden Door will be taking place in London, England, and we got a commercial for that. But the commercial did say London, England, but it did not say Wembley Stadium. So could be at a different venue, maybe like the O2 Arena or one of the other smaller arenas in London. But it did not actually say Wembley Stadium on the commercial, or at least I missed it, which sometimes I do end up missing things. But let's talk about 0 hour, which we had a panel of the remarkable Renee Paquette, RJ City, we had Jeff Jarrett on, and someone else I know, but for some reason I'm blanking on who it was. don't know why. Oh, Matt Menard. Sorry about that. It was Daddy Magic Matt Menard, who was also on the 0 Hour panel. And let's get into the action. The matches we saw on 0 Hour. We had a 16-man tag team match, and I'm going to be talking about that on episode 616 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic right here. That must be the theme of the day, 16. We had the Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Kyle Fletcher, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and Top Flight, Darius Martin and Dante Martin, with Don Callis, who was on commentary, as he usually is during the matches, and they defeat Jay Lethal, Saddam Singh, Anthony Ogogo, Arya Davari, Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Quinn, and the Dark Order, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds, with Evil Uno and Sanjay Dutt in their corner. 11 minutes, 35 seconds. That took a while to say just because there were so many guys in that match. But actually, going into this one, I thought it was just going to be kind of sloppy, kind of cluttered. So many guys in there. But I have to admit, they actually, in my opinion anyway, made this match actually quite entertaining. And then our next 0 Hour match was the mixed tag team match, which saw CMLL Women's Champion Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii defeating the team of Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. And since Willow and Big Tom won, they got to choose the stipulation for the CMLL Women's World Championship match in 2 weeks at All Out. So I'm guessing maybe Dynamite or Rampage or Collision. We'll find out what Willow will choose. 8 minutes, 10 seconds for that match. Pretty fun match. And then next up, we have a 10-man tag team match. The Von Erichs, Marshall and Ross, teaming with the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, and Katsuyori Shibata with the legendary Kevin Von Erich in their corner. And they defeat the Undisputed Kingdom, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and the Cage of Agony, Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Toa Leona. 11 minutes, 10 seconds. Pretty good match here. And right now I just want to say, I actually don't think there was even a bad match on the show this afternoon. Every match was probably at least good, or better, of course. And then we have the 4-way. Now we are on to the main card, by the way. Sorry, I skipped something on 0 Hour. We get Saraya, of course, upset about not being on the card this year. She comes out with the Knight family. And then we get the long-awaited return to AEW of Jamie Hayter. She cleans house. Good to see Jamie back in AEW. And so it looks like we're going to see a feud with her and Saraya. And now on to the main card. AEW All In, live from Wembley Stadium in London, England. Our commentators tonight. Well, first for 0 Hour, we had Matt Menard joining him, and then we had Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, the Human Suplex Machine, Taz, Nigel McGuinness, and for the main event, good old JR Jim Ross did make the trip to London. And to kick things off, we got started right away here, was the London Ladders match. And we have the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta teaming with Pac to take on the Patriarchy, Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne. And the Bang Bang Gang, Juice Robinson and the Guns. And honoring the House of Black, Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews. This one was pretty insane. Of course, a lot of spots with the ladders, tables involved, but it is actually the Blackpool Combat Club and Pac getting the win in this one to become the new AEW World Trios Champions. 18 minutes, 50 seconds. Really good match here. This is another one, 4-way trios ladder match. I thought that was another one that could kind of get a little crazy at times, but actually was a pretty fun, entertaining match. And next up, I was kind of surprised this was second. The AEW Women's World Championship match. Timeless Toni Storm defending against Mariah May. And we get the return of Luther. We haven't seen him since Mariah turned on Tony, knocking him off the stage, putting him through a table. And Mariah's mom was at ringside. And at one point, Mariah May just kind of loses it, spits in the face of Luther, throws him into the guardrail, and then even goes over to her own mother, slaps her in the face. And in the end, though, it is Mariah May defeating Timeless Toni Storm to become the new AEW Women's World Champion. 15 minutes, 15 seconds. Really good match. And the way they had Toni Storm leave was kind of questioned if there's going to be a rematch or not. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have the FTW for the World Championship. Or at least for now it's called that anyway. Before the match, Hook taking on the Learning Tree Chris Jericho with Big Bill and the Bad Apple Brian Keith at ringside. I thought this was a fun match. Like I always say, just my opinion, but of course Big Bill and Brian Keith get involved. Big Bill ends up going through a table with a barbed wire board on it. Brian Keith gets involved, and then Taz gets up from the announcer's table and gets Brian Keith into Taz's mission, while Hook has Jericho locked in to Taz, or Red Rum, in the ring. Jericho submits. Hook becomes the new FTW champion. 10 minutes, 15 seconds. Taz hugs his son at ringside. Hook bringing the FTW championship back home. Good match here. Be interesting to see what is next for Hook and the FTW championship. Also, what is next for Chris Jericho. The AEW World Tag Team Championships are defended next. The Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, defending against FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler, and the acclaimed Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, with Daddy-Ass Billy Gunn in their corner. Good match. I thought it was pretty entertaining, actually, but it is the Young Bucks getting a win to retain. 12 minutes, 5 seconds. Next up is the Casino Gauntlet. And, oh, wait, there is something I forgot to mention. After the World Tag Team Championship match, we get the return to AEW of the Grizzled Young Vets, the Grizzled Young Veterans. They have a little bit of a face-off with the Young Bucks, and then they attack FTR. I'm sure we will see that match in the near future. Next up is the Casino Gauntlet. And we already knew that the first participant would be freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. And coming in at number 2 is the AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada. These two start off pretty entertaining. And number 3 is one of the first surprises in this Casino Gauntlet, and maybe one of the biggest surprises of the night, Nigel McGuinness. And yes, I know the past year or so there was some talk about him maybe wanting to get back in the ring, but a lot of people were talking, saying that, oh, it's going to be Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson, with Danielson talking retirement and everything, and then the way Nigel McGuinness would talk about Danielson on commentary and everything. It did kind of sound like they were maybe kind of teasing that match. But then, when it was clear that we were not going to see Danielson versus McGuinness, people really stopped talking about Nigel wrestling at all. And like that saying, it wasn't on my bingo card to see Nigel McGuinness in the Casino Gauntlet, but we did. And he actually did pretty well in it. And of course, there in England, he was over big time. And coming in at number 4, we have Kyle O'Reilly. And number 5 is the winner of this year's G1 Climax Tournament, Zack Sabre Jr. Another surprise in this Casino Gauntlet. Number 6, representing the Undisputed Kingdom, Roderick Strong. Number 7, the Ring of Honor World Champion, Mark Briscoe. Number 8, one that a lot of people were picking to win it all, Hangman Adam Page. And number 9, the Last Outlaw, Jeff Jarrett. And number 10, another, well, I don't know if you really can say surprise, because it's one that's been talked about the last few days, but it's the AEW debut of Ricochet, and he looks pretty impressive in this one. Number 11, for his second match on this pay-per-view, Christian Cage. And then number 12, not Killswitch, but Luchasaurus. And they kind of tease at the end of the London Ladders match, like Luchasaurus, now I guess you could call him, he was fed up with Christian Cage finally, but he ends up helping him, and Christian Cage gets the win, 25 minutes, 59 seconds, and gets the shot at the AEW World Championship. This can be anytime, and will definitely be interesting to see when he does cash in on that title shot. But I will talk about who is the current AEW World Champion a little later on. So overall, I'd say the Casino Gauntlet, I enjoyed it. I don't know about anybody else, but I thought it was a pretty entertaining match. The AEW American Championship on the line next. The Aerial Assassin, Will Ospreay, taking on MJF. Maxwell Jacob Friedman in his American Uncle Sam gear tonight. Fantastic match, just like I thought it would be. And Will Ospreay gets the win, 25 minutes, 48 seconds. Great match. Definitely recommend it. And let me just say now that it is, just for me anyway, going to be pretty difficult to pick one match as a pick for match of the night. That's just what I'm going to say now, but I'll wait till the end of the podcast for that. The AEW TBS Championship is now on the line at All In. The AEW TBS champion Mercedes Moné defending against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And at one point, Camille, of course, gets involved. Dr. Britt Baker, shades of Eddie Guerrero, acts like Camille hit her. Referee sees it, rejects her from ringside. But it is Mercedes Moné defeating Britt Baker, 17 minutes, 22 seconds, to retain the TBS Championship. Good match, though. Was hoping to see Dr. Britt Baker win the title, but I was expecting Mercedes Moné to retain. Next up at All In, the AEW TNT Championship in a coffin match. The Scapegoat Jack Perry taking on Darby Allin. This one, a lot of brawling all over, bloody. And I know this is going to be a big surprise, but a lot of crazy spots by Darby Allin. I know you're shocked by that, but it is Jack Perry getting the win, defeating Darby Allin in this coffin match. And then after, we see the EVPs of AEW, the Young Bucks. They get gasoline and they go to set Darby Allin on fire, just like he did to Jack Perry. And then the lights go out and we hear Seek and Destroy by Metallica. And it is the return of the Icon Sting coming out to help Darby Allin. And the question is, though, is this just a one-time thing, or will we actually see Sting again in AEW after he retired at Revolution? Who knows? But good match, though. I definitely enjoyed it. And now, time for the main event of All in London for the AEW World Championship. Swerve Strickland taking on the American Dragon Bryan Danielson with Bree, Birdie, and Buddy at ringside. Great, excellent, fantastic, awesome, whichever you want to say. Just a great main event. Definitely enjoyed it. Danielson was just awesome in this match. And the winner and new AEW World Champion, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, 26 minutes, 1 second. Via submission, gets the win, wins the title, celebrates with Bree, Birdie, and Buddy in the ring. Like I said, going into it, I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. if we were gonna see Bryan Danielson walk out of All In as the new AEW World Champion, or if we were going to see the end of his legendary career. But for right now, that career is continuing, and sorry, sip of coffee. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Bryan Danielson say where he will continue his career as long as he is the AEW World Champion, and then as soon as he loses the title, whenever that may be, and then that will be the end of his career. But great night, new AEW World Champion Bryan Danielson. Like I said earlier, as far as match of the night goes, that's a tough one. There was not a bad match on the show. So many good matches. The Casino Gauntlet was very entertaining. Will Ospreay and MJF. The Coffin match, Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland. But every match on this show was definitely at least good, or if not better. Just a great pay-per-view, even from zero hour, then to the start of All In, to the end of it. If you missed All In, shame on you. Definitely check out the replay if you did not see it for some reason. And thank you for tuning in to episode 616 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And I want to know your thoughts on AEW All In the comments section, either right here on Spreaker, YouTube, or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcast at. And I might put a poll up on X, so in case you're not following yet, go to at 360 Wrestling Pod and follow. Like I said, I might put a poll up, so just stay tuned, but you should be following anyway. And I will be back right here tomorrow morning for the Monday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. And we'll preview tomorrow night's Monday Night Raw. Next Saturday, we have another afternoon pro wrestling show, the WWE Bash in Berlin Premium Live event. But until tomorrow, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.